Good morning. Hi. Health awareness law, the part of health awareness, we are going to discuss about the infectious disease now. Infectious disease, what are the definition of infectious disease? It is a disease, a pathological condition of body parts or tissues characterized by an identified group of signs and symptoms. What are the infectious diseases? Disease caused by infectious agents such as bacteria, virus, protozoa, or fungus that can be passed on to others. One to one, the bacteria and viruses that may pass into the other person, so that the infections can spread. Previously, we discussed about the non-communicable diseases. Now we are going to discuss about the infectious disease which can spread transmitted from one to one person. The are causative organisms like viruses, bacteria, or fungus. Infection occur when an infectious agent enters the body and begins to reproduce, may or may not lead to disease. Sometimes infection that bacteria or virus or fungus which enters into the body, but sometimes it may not produce. It may stay like a dormant stage. So whenever the permissive conditions present, that can reproduce and produce the symptoms and signs. Infection, pathogen. What is pathogen? The definition: an infectious agent that causes diseases. If you say which is a pathogen, so which causes the infectious disease, that may organism is called as pathogen. Host, an organism infected by another organism. Host, who is the host? The bacteria or virus or fungus which enters into the other person and receives it, and shows symptoms and signs produced by that infection organism called as host. Virulence. What is virulence? The relative ability of an agent to cause rapid and severe diseases in a host. Virulence, highest virulence means high producing infectious infections in that host is called highest virulence. Lowest virulence, low producing symptoms. And infectious diseases are responsible for quarter to third of all deaths worldwide. The worldwide disease, if you categorically divided, the one fourth of the deaths caused by infectious disease, and remaining like non-communicable diseases like other causes. Hmm? And trauma or accidents causes like that. Infectious disease account for more than half of all deaths in children under the age of 5. But overallly, if you look overallly, uh, the death rate in the world population, it shows that one fourth of the deaths caused by infectious disease. But in the children under the 5 years of age, the deaths are caused by 50% of the deaths are caused by infectious disease. Of the top 10 causes of death compiled by the World Health Organization, 5 are due to infectious disease. If you categorically take the causes of death in from first to 10, the first 5 deaths are caused due to infectious disease only, mainly in the low socioeconomical countries and underdeveloped countries or developing countries. Infectious diseases are more, but less in developed countries. The top single agent killers are HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. The top killers are lower respiratory tract infections and other diseases, which are caused by a variety of agents. Infectious disease throughout the history. Infectious agents have probably always caused disease in humans. Smallpox has been described in ancient Egyptian and Chinese writings and may have been responsible for more deaths than all other infectious diseases combined. Once upon a time, smallpox, which is eradicated now because giving the smallpox vaccine, now there is no smallpox disease. Previously, in the most of the deaths are caused by smallpox itself. There is evidence that malaria and poliomyelitis have existed since ancient times, and we have a now it exists and present also malaria, but polio eradication is there. Polio, we have eradicated the polio from India, huh? But previously we used to get the polio because of the polio virus. You know, polio virus, it causes poliomyelitis, and one type of motor neuron disease it is caused by polio virus, and by vaccination it may be eradicated. It has eradicated from this country. In the 14th century, that Bubonic plague or Black Death killed about 20 millions of people in Europe alone. 14th century, highest deaths caused by bubonic plague. In the 20th century, the 19, the 1918 influenza may have killed up to 50 millions of people. They are the one of the type of infectious disease which caused an epidemic in nature at that period. In 14th century, what is bubonic plague, and at the 20th century, it is influenza virus. Close to 20 million people have died to AIDS. Now, the rampant cause of the death by infectious diseases. One is AIDS. Cox postulates that this is the importance of the in topic in infectious diseases like Cox postulates. Who is Cox? Cox is a scientist. He developed for four criteria to demonstrate that a specific disease is caused by a particular agent. The specific agent must be associated with every case of disease, and this agent must be isolated from a diseased host and grown in culture. And third one is when the culture grown agent is introduced into a healthy susceptible host, the agent must cause the same disease. The same agent must again be isolated from the infectious experimental host. Cox Cox developed this criteria. When we call it as an infectious agent, so we have to isolate from that person, host, and if you inoculate it to the other person, the same symptoms which should present on that other person also, and we have to isolate that person from that person also. Again, we grow in the culture media, and that thus infectious agent which may be reproduced into the other person that should produce the same symptoms. Now and then only we call it as an infectious agent, and those are the Cox postulate. We call it as a Cox postulates. Infectious disease agent. Most infectious agents that cause disease are microscopic in size and thus are called microbes or microorganisms. Infections which are causing the infections. What do you call as? It is called as microbes or microorganisms. Microorganisms means very small little, and you can find out in the only by an electron microscope only. Different group of agents that cause disease are bacteria, virus, protozoa, fungi, and helminths. They are the varieties of infectious agents like bacteria, virus, protozoa, fungi, and helminths. Transmission of infectious disease. Agents that cause infectious disease can be transmitted in many ways. Transmission means one from one place to other place, which is one person to other person, which can be transmitted, the infectious disease. That is through the air, through the contaminated food or water, through body fluids, by direct contact with contaminated objects, by animal vectors such as insects, birds, rats, etc. These are the variety of transmission which can take place, which can cause disease like air, food or water, body fluids, direct contamination or animals. Phases of infection. Incubation period. Time between infection and the appearance of signs. We should know the various phases of infections like incubation period. When it enters into the body, it may not produce immediately, so it takes some time. So that is called